Welcome to Sac Taff. And I don't know why I always do this, sort of leave things sort of where I have to keep fidgeting and finding them. Yeah, I'm going to continue reading from my book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. And last week we got to chapter 6, which is part 2 of the book. And when I put the book together, I actually will put part 2 because I want to put the whole book together, and I will actually put part 2, so you sort of it's sort of in sections. And I was sharing about how Rebecca sort of adjusted to situations in college, and all of a sudden now her mind's drifted into wanting a relationship, a romantic relationship, and manages to come across a young man of the name of Andrew. And so I shared about her first date, which didn't turn out very nice. It didn't turn out very nice. And I remember putting the podcast out and then sort of thinking, I think what I need to do is give more of an introduction before I start sharing more about the second part of A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, because, like I said, the book is quite controversial, and some people who read it, the comments weren't very encouraging, which is understandable. As the story goes on, you'll see what I mean, right? But it just made me see how self-righteous people were. It just made me see how self-righteous people were. And you had to give the book a chance. You had to read it to find out actually what happens to the character. What is it that she learned? For instance, I was watching a drama and it was in 6 parts. And what they were doing, they were showing 3 parts. Say, look, on, first of all, it was on Monday, Tuesday. It was on Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. The second part was on Monday, Tuesday. And it was on Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. Second part was on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday the following week. The first couple of parts of I watched, I wasn't too impressed with it because it was just too much. The storyline, I felt, all right, I don't know how to say it, so I'll say it in such a way. When they were promoting the drama, it looked really, really good. It looked like the storyline looked really, really good, right? And then when I was watching the drama, in the first part of the drama, there was like too many, I just felt there was too much sex scenes in it. And then the second part's when I'm like, how long, isn't there more to the story than this? Because when I saw it being promoted, it just looked like there was some substance there. Isn't there more to the story? And a lot of what I've just said, a lot of people probably some people won't agree with it because maybe, that's what people want. But I want to know the substance of the story. There's something there. There was something there. And what I was seeing, I couldn't see it. I know they were developing the story, but maybe they did that to create for people, for people to watch it more. I don't know, but I know that I didn't enjoy that. I just turned it over and just waited until the storyline drifted on. However, round about the third part I missed, so I might watch it on catch up. I might do. And then the fourth one, now the story's developing. That's what I wanted. I just wanted to, because basically you saw something going on with a couple and it wasn't good. And they were showing this and it was going on and so on and so forth, creating the story. They're probably creating the story anyway. I'm sort of thinking, I want to know the consequence of what has happened in their relationship. I want to see the outcome. There's something there. There's some substance there, because you can't be right in this and there's no consequence. There must be. And then it started to unravel round about the fourth part and the fifth part, now you can see it unraveling, and you can see the consequence of what happens. You can see the consequence of what happens to the marriage, and then you see the consequence of what happens to one person in that marriage, which took the steps even further. You can see it, and okay, that's what viewers will learn now. That's what viewers will learn. I knew there was some substance there that was going to make us see the consequence of their actions. It's the same with my book. It's like there's a reason why I've written it. There's some substance there, but you're creating the story. The story's being created, and you're seeing all these iffy parts. And some of the iffy parts, people are like, what? Why is she writing that? How could she do that? Oh my goodness, blah, blah, blah. It was like that. I'm not going to read that. I don't want to. Someone even sent me the book saying, I don't want to read books like that. And I'm sort of thinking, read the rest of it, because there was a substance. There was a reason why I wrote it. You can't just get to the middle, don't like what you read, and then send it back. Maybe they did read all of it, but if you did read all of it, you would have seen how the character's mind changed. Anyway, that's why I'm doing the podcast, because I feel like I have a responsibility, not only responsibility, I want to share about it, and I feel like I need to. Do you know what I mean? I need to do that, and it would be good in the future if I can, have a guest as well, and, that can relate to what I'm talking about. But that's in the future. You have to organise things and, find the right people to come in. And also what I'll do is I need to sit down and talk to the person first to see what their mindset's like. Because I've actually done a live interview, not in relation to my book. I've done a live interview, and it was the first time I did a live interview. I didn't know the person very well. And then some of the stuff that was coming out was negative. And it's like, I had to really try and turn it around. Sometimes in life, things are going to be negative. But with me, if something's negative, I need to figure out what can I take from it that's positive so I can, give some sort of encouragement, something. And if I can't, leave it. Just leave it. So I learned from that, and maybe that's what I needed to do. Yeah, you need to, and it also chat and explain to them, this, that, what have you. Majority of people know this, but some people, if they're not used to being interviewed and so on and so forth, maybe they don't know about the essence. There needs to be some sort of an essence so that when people listen to you, they get something from it, and they can't just get something negative from it. It's like, yeah. So basically, with the book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, I must have read the back of it to you. I must have, where it says, a misfortune haunts Rebecca Barrick, who year after year, only a promise to God can annihilate this pain. But can she make this promise and not break it? Right? And the promise was that she would share what has happened. She would share it. That was the promise. And so Rebecca Barrick is myself. I am the character, and the promise was that I would share, because I'm quite a personal person. You don't need to know all of this and that. And I still am quite personal, but I will, if I've got something positive to share, which I feel is going to help an individual, is going to help someone or some people, I'll share it. And it's not a secret. I'm sharing it because I feel like there's something that I can give you that's going to help. And so when I decided to share this book, I didn't realise that it's actually made me aware that it wasn't just that incident. It wasn't just that part of my life I needed to share. It was now my responsibility to, as I go through experiences and as I overcome them, there may be a time where I need to share. It has developed. I still, obviously you've got your own stuff going on in your own life. You don't share X, Y, and Z if you don't want to, but I feel like if it's going to help someone and, you know, you've overcome it and you can share something positive, and it's just, that's maybe why you went through it, you know, as well, you know, to grow and develop so that you will be able to encourage other people going through similar or the same thing. Many a time I've spoken to people where, you know, I've said something and there was, I've basically said something, or someone's come up to me and they've said something and it hasn't been very positive at the time, you sort of think, and then, you know, you've walked away and you're sort of thinking, why did that person say that? Was it, do you know what I mean? It was, why? You know, yeah, anyway, so A Sacrifice of a Lifetime is a semi-autobiography story about one young woman's spiritual journey, and we see her as a child trying to make sense of her strange treatment meted out to her by her peers. From a weak and insecure child, she matures into a strong, confident woman, successfully working as an aerobics instructor and running her own company. So what could go wrong? I don't know why I put company, because it wasn't a company. I've only just seen that word there, sort of thinking, why did I say company? It was business. It's a business, it's not company. That needs to be changed. Yeah, so basically that's what, you know, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. I've written it. There's a reason behind it, and I'm sure many of you get it, isn't it? As I'm sharing, I'm sure many of you get it. So the book is based on, I thought I'd give a little introduction because we're getting into deeper water. We're getting into deeper water here, and it's like I have a responsibility. And I thought, let me share about a little bit about it more before I sort of start reading and getting into the rest of chapter 6 and moving on to chapter 7. So the book is based on real life experiences from the past. It's a story which reflects the story of the main character, Rebecca Barracu. And the book is controversial. The memoirs are intimate. However, although sharing this story, I would like to add that through the experiences and hiccups, this changed Rebecca's life and brought her back onto the path of living a Christian life. So I haven't involved that in this book. You can see the change, and you can see, like she says, only a promise to God can annihilate this pain, and you see what happens. But it's not like it's not a dictation or anything like that about her faith. It's what she's gone through, and in order for her to get through it, she makes that promise. So basically, because I don't want to be responsible for someone sort of listening to what I'm sharing, or be responsible for something that I've written and people sort of, sometimes you can read, because Rebecca even did that. She was reading romantic books. All of a sudden now she wants a relationship, you know. So I don't want people to read my book and say, oh, I'm going to do that. No, because basically these were things of the past. And because of her mishaps and hiccups, it brought her onto a different path where she didn't want to live like that. You know, and as she's grown and developed even more, but this is in the future and that's not involved in this book, her path has changed even more. And so her thinking is different now. And so the way that even the relationships that she's having in the book, Rebecca Barracu at moi wouldn't have relationships like that now, because the path that I'm on, I'm a Christian woman, and basically, which means if you're going to live proper Christian life, if you say that you're a woman of God, a man of God, you know that, you know, God doesn't want you to have sex before marriage. So I thought I'm sharing this for you to just understand that I'm talking about my past. And because of the mishaps and hiccups, it's guided me into a direction where life is so much better, you know. So it's not a dictation. I'm not dictating. I'm sharing because I know what I've written and I know what I'm going to read, you know. And I just feel like, I know I have a responsibility as a writer and don't want to guide people in the wrong direction. I don't want to do that. And I know that we all have free will. We've all got free will. But I'm just saying that so that you don't sort of listen to what I'm reading and get any ideas for, to follow basically the hiccups and the mishaps the character is making or has decided to make. So where am I going to start reading from? So she's gone on to the date. Rebecca's gone on the date with Andrew, and he's taken her to a wine bar. She's 15 and a half. He's taken her to a wine bar, and for some reason she's only had like 2 glasses of wine. Can't understand why she can't walk straight. So Rebecca's had too much to drink. Andrew drives her to some sort of a car park, wanting to take advantage of her, but it doesn't succeed because Rebecca's so intoxicated she needs to get out of the car and throw up. She's ill. She's not feeling well now. Too much of that stuff in her body. Yeah, too much alcohol. Not good. And then he drives her home, and then he says that he'd give her a call on Monday. So Rebecca walked slowly through the front gate and up to the porch of her home. She entered the house more quickly, brushing from one side of the passage wall to the other along the corridor leading to the toilet. She needed urgently to empty the contents of her bladder. She then proceeded back to the passage and headed for the stairs. Within moments, she was safe in her bedroom. She managed to undress and put her nightie on. Then she slid into bed where she quickly dozed off. That night, her sleeping pattern was disturbed as she tossed and turned. Unaware of the noise and vigorous movement she made, she woke up with an uncomfortable feeling, both in mind and body, and noticed that her pillow was on the floor and that all the covers were mounted at the bottom of the bed. The sunlight was shining brightly through the curtains. She adjusted her position on the bed and looked up at the ceiling, wondering how she had become such a mess. Anyway, some of this needs editing, all right? She had come to make, so she wondered how she had come to make such a mess of her bed linen. Then she began to think about what happened the previous evening. Her mind recalled every incident from beginning to end as she tried to come to terms with her behaviour. How could she have got drunk on 2 glasses of wine? ? All at once, the answer came to her. She'd been taking a keen interest in her surroundings, and Andrew must have taken advantage of this to refill her glass when she was not looking. Perhaps he was trying to get her drunk. She became satisfied with this answer and got out of bed to go to the bathroom to freshen up. She felt as though her head was heavier than her body. I'm on chapter 7 now. So on the way home, Rebecca told Kim briefly what had happened on Saturday night. So they must have been coming back from the dance class that they go to on a Friday. To be more exact, she told her what she did not mind her knowing. So she only told her certain things. That Andrew had taken her to a wine bar and that she had too much wine to drink, making her feel ill. Having got that much off her chest made Rebecca feel better and started singing to herself. This made Kim laugh. Is this how you act when you're drunk? She asked. As soon as Rebecca arrived home, she greeted her parents and went straight to her bedroom. She felt very unwell and developed a headache and a fever. She tossed and turned. Her temperature rose, but her healthy constitution came to her aid and the symptoms slowly died down, enabling her to regain her normal sleeping pattern. The following morning, she awoke with a clear head and was delighted to realise that her physical strength had returned. She swore to herself that she would never let herself get drunk again. She never wanted to repeat the pain and trauma she had experienced. Yeah, I mean, you sort of think, and to be honest, never has that happened again. It didn't really make sense, drinking too much and making yourself feel that ill. To her, it felt like she hardly ever got ill, but it felt like having flu, but like 10 times worse. you know, and then feeling sick and lethargic, and it's like, what's the point? Do you know, what's the point? It's good to learn. I guess it's good to learn that way instead of like going through that and sort of not learning and going through it again until slowly you just get used to drinking a lot, until you can drink a lot, you know, before you actually get to that stage. So she learned from that first time, never again. And yeah, and never, never have I got myself in such a state like that. No, and I don't think I drank again until I was most probably about 17 and a half. I sort of had an odd drink. It was never like that, whereby, you know, she was where I was just intoxicated, or she was intoxicated, should I say. Never like that. It just didn't make sense at all. Nah. Yeah, so she went back to her father's store feeling on top of the world again. That's very positive, you know. I like the way I've written that. In her own world, thinking on top of going back to her father's store feeling on top of the world again. That's very positive, isn't it? Because in her own world, there was this peace and contentment and this happiness. She had a good home life, you know, and she's working in her father's store, earning a little bit of money, enabling her to buy certain things that she really wanted. You know, it's nice to see that contrast from all the issues that she was having at college and this, that, what have you, which she was adjusting to, because the main ones happened in the secondary school with the indirect bullying and stuff like that. And so it's nice to hear that she was on top of the world once again. Lovely, I love it. Yeah, and in the afternoon, Andrew called. And he said, so what are the arrangements for this week, he asked. How about the cinema? Would you like to see a film on Saturday? Okay, that sounds fine, she said. So despite what had happened, she still wanted to explore the relationship. Saturday arrived and Rebecca quickly got herself ready after work. She put on her outfit, a t-shirt with short slanted sleeves and a plunging neckline. It wasn't too plunging. It wasn't too, it was just a v-neck, sort of like a t-shirt. It wasn't, you know, so I don't know why I've written plunging. Anyway, that stopped. Yeah, listen to this. So her outfit was a t-shirt with short slanted sleeves and a plunging neckline that stopped just an inch above the breastbone. There you go, that's better. And a violet skirt that looked good with the narrow navy blue stripes set horizontally on the white shirt. Okay. In case the weather changed, she also wore her dark blue cardigan. After she had finished combing her hair and putting on some makeup, she was ready for the evening. Since there was time to spare, she decided to go downstairs to the front room and play records. She was absorbed by the sounds and did not at first hear or see her brother open the door. When she finally noticed him, he went into the room and a smile seemed to appear within temples of his cheeks. She thought he was staring at her makeup. This brotherly criticism caused her to doubt herself. She had been pleased with her appearance and suddenly she lost her feeling of confidence and she left the house feeling inadequate and disheartened. Andrew was waiting patiently in the car. Where should we go, he asked. I thought we were going to see a film, she said excitedly. He certainly was already. Hang on. I don't understand what I've written there. Anyway, let's cross that out. I don't know what that meant. I'll put question mark. Okay, said Andrew with great enthusiasm. So which cinema shall we go to then? So let's go to the local picture house. It's not far from here. Blah, blah, blah. And then when they arrived outside the cinema, Andrew made something of a performance about finding a suitable parking space, although the cinema had a car park. Hang on a minute, he said. Instead of going to the pictures, would you like to go to a hotel? What hotel? She said, thinking he was proposing another drinking session. She had no objection, but would definitely stick to Coca-Cola on this occasion. The hotel just there, he pointed. It was situated near the cinema car park. She suddenly had a doubt. What for? She asked. I just want to see what it's like. All right, she said quickly. The truth is that she wanted to be treated as an adult. She was excited by the idea of being with a real man. A real man? Would he have really? Would a real man get his date drunk on the first date or any date? you know. Anyway, they walked into the hotel and Andrew was went straight up to the desk, and then asked for spare room. And he asked for a single room. Because they said, would you like a single or double room? He said a single room. The receptionist handed Andrew the keys for room 21. He quickly walked towards the staircase, Rebecca following. A porter gave Rebecca an inquisitive look, which made her nervous, but nothing was said. Andrew wasted no time. As soon as they entered the room, he began to make advances towards Rebecca. This was not at all what Rebecca had expected. In her innocence, she assumed that they would talk in order to get to know each other. That's what she thought. But she soon realised that Andrew expected her to have relations, should I say, with him. And this made her feel cheap and insulted. She wanted a relationship to develop, but not so quickly. As he tried to force himself on her, she pushed him away, and told him firmly that she hardly knows him, and she didn't want to sort of be intimate with him and so on and so forth at that moment. So as far as she was concerned, the evening within that room had come to an end. While Rebecca straightened her clothes, Andrew lay and watched her. He was confused by the signals she was displaying, but he knew that he had no other choice that night than to take her to the cinema. He sighed as he hauled himself off the bed and tugged on the waist of his trousers and picked up his car keys. Okay, come on, man. It's horrible, isn't it? It really is horrible. It really is. But I feel weird even reading it. I don't know. It's probably because my life is so different now. And my way of thinking is so different now. I would never put myself in a position like that. And even this day and age, it's just even worse, and you just have to be so careful nowadays. And definitely going to a hotel and going in a hotel room with someone that you don't like is very dangerous nowadays. So it's just something for all of us to be aware of. And I'm sure many of you watching are, but some people might be a little bit think a little bit how Rebecca was thinking, he just wanted to go to the room to talk, have that privacy to talk, so I'm just sharing. And so they went downstairs, handed the keys to the receptionist and quickly left the premises, and then they went to go and see a film. And it was clear, I'm not reading everything, so obviously, so that when the book comes out, if you would like, it would be good for you to read. You'll be able to see more in detail and so on and so forth. So I don't want to read everything, like I said, from line to line, paragraph to paragraph. So it was clear to her that Andrew was not the man of her dreams. He lacked all the finesse when it came to wooing the ladies. But because she wanted experience, although in her mind and in her own way, she decided to play on and not to drop him. For his part, he was not deterred by her initial reluctance. And the following week, he took her to a club where she was careful to stick to soft drinks. It's good. I like the way that she's learned so quickly, to stick to soft drinks. And she's just said, no, I'm not she's not going to put herself through that again. So I like that. Yeah, because I've looked at, with the story, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, the only things I've basically looked at are all the negative things, the indirect bullying, getting into this relationship and then what happens. But it's all been the negative stuff, not realising in between there's a lot of strength there in the character, but she just couldn't bring that out of herself. She couldn't bring it out of herself. So I'll underline that. So they sat in the corner of the room, and Rebecca found the atmosphere very enjoyable. Within minutes, Andrew had moved close to her and slowly put his arms around her, and his behaviour followed the same pattern as the pictures. Because when she went to the pictures, she couldn't basically relax and watch it properly because, again, he was, just putting her arm around her and so on and so forth. It just made her feel uncomfortable. There's a part that I've read. Yeah. It's further on. Yeah. So she was again dismayed by his attitude. She did not have the confidence to ask him to remove his hand and felt very uneasy when she turned around at an angle, enabling her to view the bar, and realised that she was being observed by the barman. And I mean, looking at that, it wasn't because the barman thought she was underage. Otherwise, he would have come over and said, excuse me, how old are you, or something like that. And she would have said 15 and a half. She would not have said 18. She wouldn't have said that. From his expression, she sensed that he thought she was really just a child. I don't think that was the point. He would have basically asked, because I don't feel like any bar would want a young person to be in the bar drinking alcohol. But she was drinking soft drinks, but still. In fact, she looked 2 years older than her age, but there was still something childish about her that seemed to suggest that she was incapable of looking after herself. The truth is that she knew exactly what she wanted from Andrew, but she was not in control of the events. And her discomfort came temporarily to an end when Andrew asked her if she wanted another drink and gave her the money to go over to the bar to fetch it. He clearly didn't know. I look, reading this now, he clearly didn't know she was only 15 and a half. Clearly, because no way would he have given her the money to go and buy a drink at the bar. It's like, together with a lager for himself, but she also felt awkward when the barman and barmaid both stared at her while she was being served. Fortunately, however, Andrew kept his hands to himself when she returned with the drinks, enabling her to enjoy the music and the surroundings in a ladylike, civilised manner. And I feel like the reason why now, reading this to you now, I feel as though the reason why they were looking at her in a certain way was because they probably sensed that she was uncomfortable with him, and they were trying to figure out, why was that, is she okay, so on and so forth. I think they were concerned for her welfare. I think reading it now, that's what it was. It wasn't that, they thought she was underage, because they would have come over and asked or said something. So the rest of the evening passed pleasantly. Rebecca was glad that Andrew did not ask her to dance. When he drove her home, he kissed her goodnight and said he would call her on Tuesday. So at least we didn't have to go down the same route as the first date. That was the second date. I think that's the third one, isn't it? Because the second one, they go to the pictures. The third one, I'll finish there, because I'll finish up to here. I'll put here so I know what to do next week. That's it. So you go. That's her third date or what have you. So it's better than the first one. And we've got the second and the third. And I feel weird even talking about it. I really do. But we'll carry on next week. And then you see basically a decision Rebecca takes. And this is what's gonna be life changing when you make certain decisions when you're younger. It can really mold your future, really change certain things. If it's the right decision, it can change things in the right way, lead you on the right path. If it's the wrong decision, it can change things and lead you on the wrong path. Some people can learn quickly and put a stop to it. Others don't. They continue to walk down this path, and the decision that they made, even though it was a wrong decision, gets worse and worse and worse, and they wonder why, in 5-10 years later, why things haven't changed. Well, the same things are reoccurring because their mindset hasn't changed yet. So that's why reading this with you, when Rebecca makes that decision about not gonna let her, deciding not to get herself intoxicated with alcohol again, that's a good decision. Can you imagine if she just got used to it and every time she went out with this man, she continually kept drinking and drinking to the point that she could drink a lot and it wasn't affecting her, and then she went on, in this direction and so on and so forth. I'm so pleased that, I, Rebecca, in the book, chose to do that. Yeah, so that's it for now, and I hope you're enjoying what I'm sharing. I'm sure many of you can relate to what I've just shared. I'm sure many of you have, gone on first dates and it hasn't turned out well, but we do need to look after ourselves, especially in this day and age. If you're going to go on a date, I think I shared last time that tell someone where you're going. So find out where you're going, tell someone where you're going. It's not dictation, it's just a bit of advice. Tell someone where you're going and go to somewhere in public. And if you can take a friend with you, because sometimes people take a friend, a colleague or what have you, and they can sit in the corner and just make sure you're okay. And then to go and make sure with the drinks, be careful, because now sometimes, unfortunately, people can put something in your drink and that can affect you as well. And they can sort of, just abuse the situation. And then when it's time to go, just offer to just make your own way home, get an Uber, a cab or something like that. And just to make sure that you're safe always, just to make sure you're safe. And like I said, the instances and the mishaps and hiccups that I've gone through, that Rebecca went through in the book, it sort of put me in a different path. I was raised up in a Christian home, and it sort of guided me back to becoming a Christian. So now, as regards to Christian dating, they suggest that when you go on a date, it was one of the churches I used to go to. When you go on a date, and it makes sense, go on like a double date, and go somewhere in public, and so on and so forth. They're not going to be drinking alcohol. I don't think they're going to be drinking alcohol. I don't think they're going to advise that, because it can change your way of thinking. And then obviously depart, make your way home, and never be in a situation where you go to that person's home or you're on your own somewhere. They don't advise that. It's so difficult, isn't it, just to have a proper sort of like pure way of dating. And even if you're not a Christian, you do find some people are very sort of like they want to live this type of life. They want to live a life whereby they prefer just to date, get to know someone after a while. Then in time, if you feel it's something that if you feel like you really want to get to know this person, it continues, and so on and so forth. Get engaged and get married, and then they get intimate. Some people, even though they're not Christians, want to do that. And there is a sense of liberty in living like that, because you can find yourself in a situation where you are intimate with that person, and all of a sudden this person thinks that they own you, and you don't feel free just to sort of say, oh, you're not sure about this person, so you want to go on another day. And if you're intimate with that person, then all of a sudden you're not sure, and now you're going out with somebody else. It's confusing, especially as a woman. It can become confusing, and it can lower your self-esteem as well, because it's like 1 minute you're with that person, now you're with that person, but when you decide not to get intimate, just to date people and get to know people, then 1 minute you could be going out with this person, it's like, no, I'm not sure about this person. Then you date somebody else, and because the first person knows the way that you're living, that you're not sort of intimate, you don't want to get intimate, and then they might see you with somebody else. They know that they should know there's nothing going on there, because you don't want to get intimate. It doesn't create this sort of confusion or conflict. It creates a sense of liberty, because it's like you're in control, because you know what you want, and you just feel good about yourself living that way. And a lot of people listening may not agree with me. And like I say, we've all got free will. I'm just sharing what I've learned. You can see how I used to live. You can see how Rebecca's living. You can see it, you know, and so you can see the difference if you're living one way and then decide, then you see, because of all the mishaps and the hiccups, when you're in a situation years to come, you sort of learn from all of that, and you sort of say, no, I don't want to do that now. I don't want to do that now. I want to live this type of a life. And you can just see the difference, the liberty there. Other people will say different. They sort of say, yeah, well, you know, they're having a lot of fun. They're intimate with this person, this, that, what have you. But along the way, complications could arise, you know, because of it, and so on and so forth. But, you know, we'll talk about this more. We'll talk about it more. If you do want to make any comments, don't forget to comment and let me know what you think. It's always good to know what other people think, isn't it? It really is good to share. Don't want to feel like I'm talking at you. I'm sharing, you know, and I'm enjoying sharing with you, and I hope that you're enjoying watching what I'm doing. If you want to follow me in my socials, on Instagram, Rosalind1325, on Facebook as Wisdom Roberts. I'm on X, if I can find. Have I got my cords on me? Have I got my cards on me? Anyway, it's at author_RR Roberts. You should find me on Twitter, on X. I'm on Threads and also on YouTube as Welcome Wisdom Roberts. It'd be good to hear from you. Subscribe, do some likes, let me know, comment and share. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.